It's homecoming week here at LaSalle, which means basketball is back, and I'm so excited I'm turning blue and gold. Hello, I'm Gia Lancey.
And I'm Josh Abrams. Men's and women's cross country did something extraordinary this past weekend. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. On this week's edition of On the Sideline, Tyler Small sits down with women's basketball head coach Mountain McGilvery to get excited for the start of the women's basketball season.
And later, we highlight women's soccer who took on the Dayton Flyers in the quarterfinals this past weekend.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
Number 1, swimmers Norm Gregory and Sam Henninger both took home the A10 awards this week. The freshman Henninger earned his second Rookie of the Week award as he earned top finishes at the A10 Classic over the week. Senior Gregory earned Performer of the Week after his standout performance at the A10 Classics as well. To hear more about how they did, and stick around for this week's recaps.
Number 2, senior Pat McCarthy and freshman Carlos Mora both received Soccer 6 awards on Monday. McCarthy was named Player of the Week. The accolade comes after he assisted the Explorers to land a playoff spot. He had a goal and an assist in their win over St. Bonaventure on Saturday. The selection is his second of the year and fourth in his career. Mora earned his second Defensive Player of the Week award this season. Mora registered his third shutout of the season against the Bonnies as he lowered his goals against average to just .89.
Number 3, redshirt senior Macy Bauer has earned Atlantic 10 All-Conference First Team, while freshman Danielle Rooney was named to the Atlantic 10 All-Rookie Team. Bauer is having a spectacular year after sitting out with an injury last season. She leads the Explorers in points with 21 and with goals at 10. Those totals land her 7th and 5th in the A10 respectively. Rooney made 3 starts for LaSalle in her freshman year and appeared in 18 games. She earned 7 points off 2 goals and 3 assists on the season.
I really appreciate that in each of those there was a freshman and a senior. The age diversity is just great.
Yeah, and you know what? It certainly goes to show maybe how set up LaSalle athletics may be for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
when
definitely.
we're no longer here, and you know, when LaSalle athletics doesn't become it's no longer a top priority for us.
Yeah, they definitely have some upcoming talent.
Yeah, and it's going to be more refreshing than anything as alumni to see that. I hate looking ahead, but it's something to think about.
Because we actually want to see it now, but you know, of course we'll see it when we're alumni, but It's okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for our top stories this week. Now let's look at how our teams did in the recaps. The cross-country teams competed in the Atlantic 10 Championships, with both teams bringing home an A10 title. Starting with the women, senior Grace Mancini finished as the Explorers' top performer, crossing the finish at 3rd place. She ran the 5K just a second over 18 minutes. Right behind her was sister Elle Mancini, who led the race at the halfway mark before her 4th place finish. Freshman Jerica Luferano jumped 16 spots by the second half of the race to end at 9th, while Liz Mancini at 19th place rounded out the Explorers' top 20 finishers. Out of 131 runners, LaSalle had 7 runners in the top 50. The blue and gold breezed to the title, finishing 24 points ahead of 2nd place George Washington. The title is the team's 8th in the last 19 years and 1st since 2011. Congrats, ladies.
Moving to the men's cross-country team, they captured their 10th title in the last 20 years and their 1st since 2013. The men blew by the competition, finishing 46 points ahead of 2nd place St. Joe's. Luke Jaku-Zerakowski led the charge with a 3rd place finish, running the 8K in just over 25 minutes. Sophomore Ibrahim Kadir took 5th place just 7 seconds after Luke. Senior Anthony Hawthorne finished 8th to round out the Explorers' top finishers. Freshman Alex Sanders claimed Most Outstanding Rookie Performer as the top freshman finisher. Great job, guys.
Women's soccer took on Dayton in the first round of the A10 playoffs. Producer Miles Williams has the coverage. Take a look.
On Saturday, November 2nd, Sal's women's soccer team played Dayton in the first round of the A10 playoffs. Junior goalie Claudia Jenkins continued her standout play from the regular season, staving off multiple Dayton attempts on goal early in the first half. Lack of offense proved to be an issue for both teams in the game, but LaSalle was able to take a 1-0 lead when freshman Emily Bondashevsky scored in the 20th minute on a free kick. In the second half, LaSalle's defense was a driving force for keeping the lead in their favor. Jenkins carried home momentum into the second half, adding 3 more saves to her stat sheet. The offense struggles continued, only getting 3 shot attempts on goal, and they weren't able to muster up an insurance goal in the second half. But that didn't matter because LaSalle won 1-0 and will take on St. Louis November 8th for a trip to the A-10 finals. For SportsLine, I'm Miles Williams.
The men's soccer team tallied a win in its final appearance of the regular season on the road against St. Bonaventure. Sophomore Nigel Buckley led the charge for the Explorers in the first half, landing a shot in the 12th minute off an assist from senior Pat McCarthy. A strong defensive effort maintained the 1-shot lead going into the half. After the break, a penalty kick by McCarthy put the blue and gold up by 2. A continually strong Explorer defense kept the Bonnies at bay and sealed the shutout. With their 2-0 win, the Explorers have landed a spot in the A-10 Soccer Championships for their first postseason appearance since 2016.
Volleyball had 2 A-10 matchups this week as they took on Rhode Island and Fordham. The first set of Rams was Rhode Island on the road. LaSalle got the job done quick with a 3-0 sweep. All 3 sets were close, but the Explorers were led by double-doubles from senior Catherine Wood and junior Sam Graver. Both teams failed to get separation throughout the game, with 2 sets going over the usual 25 points. Next up, the team traveled to Fordham to take on another set of Rams. This match was more competitive as it went to a deciding 5th set. The Explorers were once again led by Graver and Wood, and Graver earned the first triple-double of her career. She finished the match with 10 assists, 28 digs, and 14 kills. The 2 wins along with losses from Davidson and Duquesne pushed the Explorers to the 4th seed in the A-10 with just 3 games left in the regular season.
The women's basketball team kicked off their season with a road trip to Howard University. In the first frame, Howard held the advantage with a score over LaSalle of 17-14. However, LaSalle answered back with a straight 8 points in the first 2 minutes of the frame and closed out the half, outscoring Howard 16-13 and having the lead 38-30. Though Howard made an attempt to get the upper hand, they were simply no match for the team effort made by the blue and gold, with the game ending in a win for LaSalle 78-62. All 10 Explorers who played in the game each registered a point, including rookie Claire Jacobs, who scored 20 points in her first collegiate game. LaSalle will next host Robert Morris for their homecoming doubleheader.
Over the weekend, the men's swimming and diving team competed in the A-10 Classic. The Explorers made a splash at the competition with multiple podium finishes. To start off, freshman Sam Henninger had 2 collegiate wins as he excelled in the 1-meter and 3-meter dive. Senior Norm Gregory also added 2 first-place finishes in the 50 and 100 free. Freshman Cole Dyson also earned 2 second-place finishes in the 500 free and 1650 free. Sophomore Ian Venter had a second-place finish in the 100 back, while coming in 3rd in the 100 breast and 50 free. Sophomore Steve Stasola came in 3rd in the 3-meter dive. Junior Daniel Johnson had a 3rd-place finish in the 100 free. Senior Marcus Forsgreen had a 2nd-place finish on the 100 breast and the 3rd in the 50 free.
The women's swimming and diving team also traveled to the A-10 Classic. The freshman swimmers that made their mark during the tournament is Bryn Peterson, who placed 5th in the 200 free. She also placed 6th in the 100 free. Lauren Fenn placed 5th in the 100 back. In diving, Erica got 6th on the 1-meter dive. The sophomores had made top finishes. Sophomore Sarah Rosetto came in 1st on the 200 back with a time of 2 minutes and 5 seconds. She had a 3rd-place finish on 400 and finished 4th in the 200. In diving, Shaya scored 262.8 points on the 3-meter dive. She finished 2nd in the 1-meter. Emily Wolbert finished in 3rd in the 200 fly with a time of 2 minutes and 8 seconds. In the 200 free relay, the Explorers finished at 1:39.
Men's water polo had 2 matches over the past week against Wagner and Bucknell. The match against Wagner was a rough day for the Explorers, losing the game by a score of 25-10. Wagner scored first to open the match, but LaSalle responded back with 3 uncontested goals. Wagner quickly answered with 3 goals of their own to tie the game. The Seahawks then scored 8 unanswered goals in the second. Junior Cole Strawson tried his best to bring the score closer, netting a quick goal at the beginning of the 3rd quarter. followed by a Williams goal, bringing the score to 13-7. Wagner did not let up after 2 Explorer goals and went on to score 6 more without an Explorer answer. The Explorers were outscored 6-3 in the fourth, ending the game with a final score of 25-10. The next day, the Explorers went up against Bucknell. The outcome was yet another loss for the team. Bucknell stormed out of the gate, scoring 7 uncontested goals in the first quarter. The Explorers scored 2 goals in the second quarter, but it still was not enough as Bucknell scored another 4 to go their already large lead. The game ended with a score of 21-3.
Well, that's it for recaps, but when we come back, Tyler Small sits down with women's basketball coach Mountain McGovery.
According to the Mayo Clinic, exercising has stress-busting benefits by bumping up your endorphins and improving your mood.
Yo, bro, what's good?
What's going on?
How you feeling, man?
Doing good. How you doing?
When'd you start smoking?
Smoking? It's a Juul, bro.
It's a Juul?
Yeah.
Listen, you might as well be smoking cigarettes. When you start juuling or vaping, you're 4 times more likely to start smoking cigarettes.
Is that true?
That's very true. Give me the Juul. You don't need it.
To learn more about e-cigarettes, go to thetruth.com.
Welcome back. Earlier today, Tyler Small sat down with Mountain McGovery. Take a look.
Hello and welcome to another edition of On the Sidelines. I am Tyler Small here with the women's basketball head coach, Mountain McGovery. How are you today?
Doing great, Tyler. How are you?
Good, thank you. So we'll dive right into it. I think we're going to start with the Howard victory. First game on the road, got a win 78-62. We'll talk about it more in this episode. Take us through the win. How'd you feel?
Yeah, it was a real nice turnaround from the way we started last year against Howard here. You know, to go on the road to play a veteran team who, is going to win 18 to 20 games again this year, going to have a good chance to find themselves in the NCAA tournament. To go on the road and get a win was a real big boost for this group.
Right.
We had 2 scrimmages leading up to it, struggled a little bit, but day by day it's been coming together, and we were really focused defensively. Mm-hmm. The kids really followed their team rules, and it turned out in a win.
Good, good. One of the highlights we saw from it, and we actually had an interview at Hoops Madness with Deja King.
Yes.
And we talked about some of the impact players that she saw this year, and one of them that she pointed out was Claire Jacobs. She got her first collegiate start, dropped 20 points, was a team leader in 28 minutes. We already knew about her history from Australia, leading the U18 team to a national championship. Did you expect this kind of output from her? Did you expect this kind of game from her in her first game?
To be honest, I wasn't surprised. In her first scrimmage, she was really effective. She didn't perform as well, right before the game leading up to it, but she's a gamer. We know when the lights come on, she knows how to get it done. And, things are brand new for her. There's a lot of defensive things that we're doing that are a change for her. She's being asked to, be more accountable. And so overcoming those things, they've slowed her down a little bit.
Yeah.
But, once it was game time, she's a natural scorer. It's what she does, and it showed up.
Great, great. So speaking about that, about the new players, you have a lot this year. You have 8 new, whether it's transfers or freshmen, and 10 in total that are just trying to get the team chemistry, trying to learn your game plan. How has that experience been this offseason, getting them more together as a team?
Well, obviously we're green. There's a lot of growing pains with it. Deja, who you mentioned earlier, she played in this part of the season last year, but she didn't play in conference play. And then we had Kate Hill, who sat out last year.
Yeah.
Now we have 5 freshmen and 3 transfers. One of them won't be playing during this season, but she's in practice every day. So, there's a system in place that everybody's got to learn their role in it. And there have been growing pains. So when everything was brand new and we weren't learning anything, they looked great. They were free, they were playing great. But then as we put in more and more pieces, people were thinking too much. People were, a little bit slower and unsure of themselves. But now as we get closer and the seasons gets rolling, they get better and more comfortable with those things, and the whole product gets better. And I'm enjoying watching them grow.
Great. And so you say that there's a big learning curve with it. And you definitely need, besides yourself, and your assistant coaches, you need some of the players to step up for that leadership role. Who have you seen so far really take that in stride?
Yeah, I think, Shalina Miller had a full season under her belt, and she's really learning to be vocal in her leadership, really captaining the defensive end of the floor. She's a real big shot blocking presence, and she kind of knows her role there. And so she's been growing in that communication, certainly. Kayla Sproul has taken a big jump from her freshman year to sophomore year. Again, she has a full season under her belt. And, she's been day in, day out the best player in practice. And so that's been really exciting to see. And she had a 12-8 in her first game this year. So she continues to come along. And then obviously Deja playing the point of our defense is a major factor. We're trying to get her and Kate Hill, 2 point guards, to be more vocal. But certainly, discipline-wise, they know where to be and what to do, and that's kind of starting to rub off on everybody else.
Great. So we'll talk about you for a little bit now. As you know, you start, as we've highlighted here on this show before, I should say, you started with Archbishop Carroll for a while, then you went to Vermont, and then you had a great run with the Quinnipiac Bobcats, who really dominated the MAC throughout their time. What do you see from those previous teams that you see now with LaSalle, or what have you brought from those teams to LaSalle?
Really similar. The system that I coached in high school and the system I coached in at Quinnipiac is kind of the system we're implementing here at LaSalle. And I see that we've got some building blocks in place.
Right.
I think when people are watching us this season, I think, we're going to have our ups and downs for sure, but I think people are going to be like, oh, I get it. I see where this is going. And, we had a couple of those aha moments in our first game, like where, the coaching staff just kind of looked at each other and like, oh, there's something here. and for every one of those, there's going to be something really ugly right now because we are so green still. But, it's very similar to what you've seen, what anybody who's watched the national landscape has seen from Quinnipiac. It's, we're doing the similar things.
Right. Great. So one last question. Again, thank you for coming in. We have homecoming coming up this weekend, back-to-back. You guys, girls, are taking the court first, and the guys are going to follow. What do you expect from the crowd? What do you expect from your team in their first home game? And just what are you excited for?
Yeah, so just looking forward to seeing some of our alumni back. It's really important for me to help, grow this program, to have the alumni connected to our current players. So excited to have some of them back for our game. Excited to be playing before the men's game, so we have maybe double size of the crowd. Should be a lot of people in town, so it should be exciting. Robert Morris, put a hurting on us last year out at their place. We're hoping to turn that around. We already turned one win around, so trying to get another one.
Great. Next episode we have here, we hope to be talking about the 2-0 LaSalle Explorers.
That'd be fantastic.
Great. Thank you again for
Thank
coming
you
in.
very
We
much.
appreciate it. Gia, Josh, back to you at the desk.
We have one last break, but when we come back, we'll be previewing homecoming and taking a look at the Explorer Report. Stick around. Welcome back. This Saturday, November 9th, is LaSalle's homecoming day. Along with the festivities, both basketball teams are set to play. First up is the women's team, who take on Robert Morris at noon. The Explorers are looking to continue their revenge tour as the Colonials blew out LaSalle last year 67-39. The game will be a tough matchup as RMU is coming off a championship season and a March Madness appearance.
Next up after that at 4 p.m., the men face off against Iona in their first game of the regular season. The Gales are a constant fixture in the NCAA tournament and will prove to be the first test in Coach Ashley Howard's second season.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting that Ashley Howard decided not to name captains this year. So I think he's really trying to give all of his players that chance to step up and, take that leadership opportunity at any game or any part of the season.
Yeah, it's a different way of going about it. I don't think there's a lot of Division I basketball coaches, or really any basketball coach in college, that would go about doing that, not naming any captains. I think it's really more so just equal opportunity more than anything. We always see these basketball teams that have their fixture of 6 to 8 guys that can contribute strongly, and then they have their bench players that only come in when the game's really out of reach. But I think this method, this implementation that Coach Ash is trying to do, I think it'll really it should at least boost the self-esteem of everyone on the team.
Yeah, and especially because of the amount of freshmen and transfers there are. And some of the transfers are a little bit older too, so it really gives them that opportunity.
Yeah, and the problem last year was that when Ash was in his first season, he was dealing with a bunch of kids that he didn't recruit, that he didn't scout, that he didn't scout. So there was a reason why LaSalle struggled so much. This year, we were talking about how different the approach is, which hopefully in turn is going to result in a more successful. We don't know how high or how far they can go, how well they can finish, but just something different, just a different mindset. And even though it's the same coach for the second time around, again, the different environment, the different slogans and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think Ash is really trying to promote a different brand.
Definitely. He wants them to be more of a brotherhood rather than one person's a leader, you know what I mean?
Right.
And their mentality is more play each game at a time. Even when I asked Coach, what game are you looking forward to? He was looking forward to the first game because they're going to take each game at a time, which is, I think, really important for this team, especially because they don't have the experience of playing together.
Right, and I think going 1-0 into each day, even when you don't have a game, is really the most important thing. I know it sounds very cliche because you're supposed to try and win every game, but that's supposed to be the goal.
Right. Well, there's plenty of LaSalle sports action this week, so let us welcome Sam Long for this week's Explorer Report.
Thanks, Gia. This week we have not one, but 2 playoff matches for the men and women's soccer teams on the road. Starting with the men's, the Explorers will be facing off against the Dayton Flyers on Sunday, November 10th in Ohio. The men are coming off a winner-take-all game against St. Bona, needed to punch their ticket to the A10 playoffs. The Explorers were led by Pat McCarthy in his victory, as he posted a goal and an assist in the 2-0 game. Carlos Mora and Brett Warner have been the dominant duo in the net, and whoever gets the starting nod for this playoff game will have to hold strong for the blue and gold defense. This will be a challenge against the 3-seeded Flyers, who have won their last 6 games and averaged 3 goals per game through that stretch. From the upcoming matchup against Dayton, the Explorers team who defeated Dayton last round, Emily Banaszewski proved to be the difference maker in their home victory in the quarterfinal, as the Explorers will need early offense once again in this matchup at St. Louis. Macy Bauer has led the scoring charge all season, and I suspect her name will be in the offensive column this game. A thrilling matchup this game to look for is the Belkins' leading scorer, Hannah Friedrich, with 10 goals in the last 20 games against the Explorers. Claudia Jenkins, who has had a 1.40 goal against average and 100 saves on the year. It'll be an exciting matchup for both soccer teams this weekend, and hopefully next episode we'll be talking about the men's semifinal preview along with the women's final matchup.
So it's really exciting that both of our soccer teams are going to the postseason.
I can't remember the last time that happened because I think
not in our
time here.
In our long 4 years here.
Yeah, 4 years. No, it's refreshing because it's not so much like you look forward to one team more than the other. I know the women's team has been a little bit more successful over our time here.
Yes, definitely.
But I think that again, we were talking about the youthfulness of our sports teams. I think the men's team kind of shows that more than the women's.
Yeah.
But regardless, the fact that they have the opportunity to at least get to the postseason, they say when you get to the postseason, you virtually start out 0-0. It's like you're starting a brand new season.
Yeah,
So,
especially in the Atlantic 10. I mean, Atlantic 10 play is always close. So.
yeah, and I mean, I think we're gonna expect high hopes out of them. The women's team has obviously been successful by going to the tournament. Men, not so much.
Right.
Let's hope for success on both sides.
Right. Well, let's talk about our picks. So for the men's, I have Dayton winning, unfortunately, 3-2. I think it's going to be a really offensive game. So I think it's still going to be close, but I just think Dayton's a higher seed, and it's in Dayton. So I think that they're going to come out successful on this one.
Yeah, I'm picking Dayton, not by a little bit bigger of a margin, 3-1. There's a reason why Dayton is a higher seed than LaSalle. They seem to be more polished offensively, and I see this being a bit of a slugfest. I don't think Dayton's going to necessarily score those 3 goals very easily, but I don't think LaSalle's going to have enough firepower.
Okay, well, let's see what Sam Long's picks were.
For the men's team, I'm going to take Dayton with a score of 3-2.
Yeah, so we all have the same idea, unfortunately. But on the women's side, I have the women beating St. Louis 2-1. Yes, so I think that they have grit, and I think that they're really determined going into this game, and they are the underdogs in this one, and I think it's going to be good. So I'm excited to see it and hear about it next week.
There's a clear reason why they're the underdog, but I'm very original. I have them winning as well, 2-1. Look, I think Macy Bauer is gonna have more than enough motivation, more than enough incentive to end her LaSalle career, maybe not necessarily her soccer career, but her LaSalle career on a high note.
Definitely, and I think Claudia Jenkins is going to have a big play.
Oh yeah,
in this too.
yeah, and I mean, if LaSalle does end up holding St. Louis to just one goal, I mean that's saying something because St. Louis is the top seed.
This is true. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, but all right, let's see Sam Long's pick for the women's game.
For the women's team, I'm going to take LaSalle with a win 4-2.
All right, so I guess we'll see about that next week. But that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting GoExplorers.com or check out this week's edition of The Collegian.
Also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there. And don't forget to answer this week's poll. Pumpkin or apple pie?
For Miles, Tyler, and our SportsLine team, I'm Gia Lancey.
And I'm Josh Abrams. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.